So the Kingdom of Bhutan just announced that they're going to be increasing their Bitcoin mining operation by over 600% in anticipation of the Bitcoin halving. So do they know something that other nation states don't? And are there more nation states quietly doing what the Kingdom of Bhutan has been doing for the past 5 years in the Bitcoin space? Well, today we're going to be having a look at the nation state prisoner's dilemma facing all of these nation states all around the world. So we're going to start off with what just happened 2 days ago. So the Kingdom of Bhutan came out and they said, look, we're going to actually ramp up our Bitcoin mining operations ahead of the Bitcoin halving. Okay, so the planned upgrades aim to boost Bhutan's mining capacity by a staggering 500 megawatts, effectively quintupling its current capacity. Okay, so this is absolutely massive, and we can see the investment is coming from a substantial $500 million fund that was established in collaboration with BitDeer. Now, for those who don't know, BitDeer is actually one of the world's largest Bitcoin mining operations, and some people might be tuning into this video and they could be unaware of what is actually going on with the Kingdom of Bhutan. So we're actually going to briefly tell that story as well for who might have missed it and is unaware of what exactly is going on with the Kingdom of Bhutan. Well, we can see here from this Bloomberg article, they're covering the more recent news and they're saying, look, Bhutan is now actually increasing its Bitcoin mining capacity by 600% as the halving looms. But that's not the news we're interested in. It was from Bloomberg, a big publication. We're more interested in the Forbes publication of what happened in 2023. So we can see here, the Kingdom of Bhutan has been quietly mining Bitcoin for years, literally years, this article says. This is a Forbes article. And as you can see, it came out in 2023. And it actually says that the Bhutanese had begun its Bitcoin mining operation years ago as one of the early entrants when the price of Bitcoin was around $5,000 per coin. It explained that the earnings from the Bitcoin mining operation go towards subsidizing power and hardware costs. And it's funny because this Forbes article says it's unclear why Bhutan never disclosed the project to its citizens or its international partners. And you can see some people who wrote the article said it's concerning that Bhutan's resources have been invested in a secretive manner. Okay, so again, I think this is interesting because I don't think it's the only nation state who is potentially mining Bitcoin. So I'm trying to actually show you another Forbes article that broke down what happened in Bhutan in a little bit more detail. But we can see here the tiny Kingdom of Bhutan secretly held millions of dollars in quote unquote cryptocurrency. Okay, so let's have a look at this. For anyone who might be new, this is what happened in the Kingdom of Bhutan. So according to court documents reviewed by Forbes, Bhutan's $2.9 billion sovereign investment arm was a customer of the bankrupt crypto lenders BlockFi and Celsius, which it was never publicly disclosed. So again, this was all you can see here since 2022, Druk, the sovereign wealth fund of Bhutan, has cultivated a secret crypto portfolio. It was inadvertently exposed amid the fallout of last year's crypto contagion, which saw the bankruptcy of numerous companies, including FTX, Voyager, and obviously BlockFi. So we can see here in the 3 months shown in the Celsius filing, Druk withdrew more than $65 million and deposited nearly $18 million in digital assets. So what's really interesting about this story is BlockFi is accusing the fund of defaulting on its repayment of a $30 million loan. The claim noted that in Feb 2022, Druck agreed to borrow $30 million of USDC. However, BlockFi is alleging that Druck failed and refused to repay the loan in full, even after the lender liquidated a collateral of 1,000 Bitcoin worth $76 million at the time of the loan, leaving an unpaid balance of $820,000. And it's really funny. Druck's CEO said, "We do not have any comments as the matter with BlockFi has been settled. We are not able to comment due to confidentiality." So again, really interesting story what's going on, but it wasn't just using BlockFi, okay? The Kingdom of Bhutan was using all of the lenders. So we can also see in the 3 months shown in Celsius filing, Druck withdrew more than $65 million of assets. So again, if it is indeed a sovereign wealth fund, this is obviously Druck, it would appear to be the first sovereign wealth fund to directly own quote unquote crypto. Okay, but we're talking about US dollars and Bitcoin. Let's not muddy the waters with that word crypto. We can also see here the Norwegian government pension fund, the world's largest sovereign wealth fund, is a shareholder of business intelligence firm MicroStrategy. But of course, it is, and other sovereign wealth funds like Singapore is also rumored to be in Bitcoin and crypto. Denied that rumor last year. But this something else in this article that I want to touch on because it relates to the second live stream that I'm going to be doing in about 15 or 20 minutes. So we can see here, a year later, crypto exchange Ripple announced it was working with Bhutan to pilot a central bank digital currency built on the XRP ledger. Okay, so again, we've talked about the more bullish, the more optimistic side of what Bhutan is doing. They're out there, they've been mining Bitcoin since 2019. Some people speculate it's been mining Bitcoin since even earlier than that. But they've obviously Ripple. This is what this article says. This is obviously back in 20. This announcement came, but you can also see that shortly after, Bhutan began experimenting with NFT art and issuing carbon credits on the blockchain. This is the Ripple blockchain. So again, we always like to show you guys the positive, the negative, and both sides of the story so you guys can make your own decisions surrounding all of the information we're showing you. So again, Bhutan's been pretty based by we're back. Maybe we're back. I think we're back. Austin's got a great emoji in the chat there today. As I mentioned yesterday, I'm on some dodgy Wi-Fi right now, and it looks as if I cut off. So very, very sorry about that, guys. Austin says, yes, we are back. The Kid Economist is in the chat. This is the first time I've seen them in the chat. Welcome, Kid Economist. Let's take a look at a couple more things before I want to round out today's video, okay? So we've speculated a lot. We've shown you guys the bullish side of what the Kingdom of Bhutan is doing. We've obviously also showed you some of the more questionable things that they were doing, experimenting with carbon credits on the blockchain and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it's kind of important to remember that the Kingdom of Bhutan isn't the only nation state publicly mining Bitcoin today. We have the UAE. We have Oman. They've invested $1.1 billion into Bitcoin mining. We have also El Salvador. Okay, that's the country I'm coming to you guys live from today. El Salvador is investing $1 billion into Bitcoin mining through the Volcano Energy Initiative. Okay, and there's other nations as well that are slowly and publicly dipping their toes in the water of Bitcoin. Okay, we still know that China holds the second most amount of hash rate around the world today, and we also know that Russia is openly accepting Bitcoin for oil trade. Okay, so this is all public, and the whole point of today's video was to say, hey, it's interesting that we now have nation states 5xing and 6xing the amount of hashing power that they're bringing to the Bitcoin network as the Bitcoin halving is coming. Because typically when we see the Bitcoin halving, we typically see these Bitcoin mining death spirals, and the hash rate have a little bit of correction because naturally the miners have their revenue cut in half when the Bitcoin halving happens. I think right now we are somewhere around, 12 days away from the halving, 15 days away from the halving. It's actually going to be happening on the 20th of April, so 420. It's pretty poetic that Bitcoin halving is happening on that date. But typically we see mining death spirals and large Bitcoin corrections happen during the Bitcoin halving. But I think it's interesting we now have nation states plowing $500 million into Bitcoin mining because they understand that their subsidies are going to get cut in half. Okay, so does this change things for the Bitcoin cycle? I'm not sure, but I think it's really interesting to obviously pay attention to what countries like the Kingdom of Bhutan is doing. Okay, as you can see, the tiny Kingdom of Bhutan secretly held millions of dollars of quote unquote crypto, and they've been secretly mining Bitcoin for years. Okay. How many other nations are doing the same? I think there is potentially more. That's just my personal view, but I think it's interesting and consequential to consider the maths, consider the numbers. You guys know I love doing a little bit of maths on the channel here, but we can see that the Kingdom of Bhutan's GDP, it's $2.7 billion. Okay. So they're a very small country. Okay. They're smaller than El Salvador when you run the numbers, and they're investing $500 million into Bitcoin mining. Okay. So think about the size of that investment. That's a $500 million investment into Bitcoin mining. Their GDP is only 5 times larger. So their GDP is 2.6 billion. So this means that their Bitcoin mining investment is about 19% of their GDP. Okay, so that is an enormous investment. This is something that we talked a little bit more about in a previous video, but it's just kind of highlighting how these smaller nations have the potential to leapfrog the bigger nations around the world. And this is why we're actually seeing a lot of these smaller nations invest heavily into Bitcoin mining. And it's great that not only nation states are heavily invested into Bitcoin mining, but we can see the plebs are also stacking Bitcoin. John is in the chat and he just stacked 100,000 sats 5 minutes ago. Congratulations, John. Thank you for also notifying us the Bitcoin halving is exactly 13 days away. And yeah, Den Lass, great comment. How was there a Bitcoin halving party in El Salvador when the date is still 13 days away? I think that the guys actually organized the halving party a long time in advance. Okay, so it's obviously very difficult to coordinate to try to get a bunch of Bitcoiners to all coalesce in a different nation, all on, you know, in future or in advance, so to say. So I believe that they planned it a long time ago, and obviously you know, the Bitcoin miners come online, they come offline, they're mining faster, some days they're mining slower, so the exact date of the halving fluctuates a little bit, so that's why it's a little bit different. And I think McLovin sums it up in the chat when he says, I think it's safe to say that Bitcoin is here to stay. I think you absolutely nailed it, McLovin. We have nation states all around the world mining Bitcoin, getting into Bitcoin. The world's largest asset manager is getting into Bitcoin. We can see here by the nation states, by their investments into Bitcoin mining. We have Bhutan in the red, we have El Salvador in the green, the UAE in the pink, and Oman here in the blue. Okay, it's becoming obvious that nation states all around the world are getting interested into Bitcoin. Everybody's interested in Bitcoin for multiple different reasons. Okay, we over at the bitcoinnews.com, we believe the reason you should be interested in Bitcoin is multifaceted. There's many reasons to be interested in Bitcoin. But if you are interested, we think one of the first things you should do is obviously take self-custody of your Bitcoin. Okay, this is what the Kingdom of Bhutan is doing. They're mining Bitcoin KYC free, anonymously, and they were doing it for 4 years in the Himalayan mountains without anyone knowing. Okay, so we actually don't know how much Bitcoin the Kingdom of Bhutan owns because they were mining it. Okay, so again, hold your own keys. There's a lot of talk about the ETFs, and we talk about the ETFs a lot on this channel because it is one of the biggest things to happen in Bitcoin. Okay, the amount of Bitcoin that's been bought by these ETFs in the first 90 days, it's already created a bigger supply shock than was created in the 2012 halving. So we talk about it a lot because it's a pretty big event. Okay, these guys have bought hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. Okay, it's a massive event. But again, I think let's not be distracted. Holding a Bitcoin ETF is not the same as holding the underlying asset, Bitcoin. Okay, when you hold the underlying asset, you don't need any permission to move that Bitcoin anywhere around the world. So again, that's kind of a little bit of signal we always like to mention. And we have in the chat, helping all night hider, held my hand the whole way. If that is great, always help a friend out if they need a little bit of help taking custody of their Bitcoin. And we can also see the chat is lively today. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I think I'm going to leave this live stream here. The last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is if you want to learn a little bit more power law models, we get asked about it a lot here on the channel. We recently had the pleasure of interviewing Preston Pish. As you can see it on the screen right there, that was a couple of days ago. So if you missed it, check that interview out. It was a firecracker. Preston is great. I just got the amazing opportunity to sit down with him in person in Madeira. And if you want to get a little bit more bullish, there's actually another thumbnail on screen as well. We actually showed you in BlackRock's secret report why 0.1 Bitcoin could be generational wealth. So if you missed that one, head on over and check it out. But that is all I've got for you guys today from the Bitcoin News YouTube channel. Probably going to go live on my personal YouTube channel in maybe about 10 or 15 minutes. I might have a cold shower before that one. It's a little bit hot here in El Salvador. And with all that said, guys, hope you enjoyed this one. And stay tuned. We got a lot more content coming for you guys this week. So have a great day. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you in the next one.